Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. If you're watching and you haven't seen Movies with Mikey's video titled Lessons Animation Taught Us, I would highly suggest you go check that out, as long as you promise to come back to see this video in response to his call to action. In addition to Mikey Newman's video, I've seen nearly all the video responses on the topic in the FILMJOY playlist, so it's easy to tell you off the bat what my video will not be about, simply because others have already touched on these points and have done an amazing job articulating those lessons from their viewpoint. Therefore, I won't be talking at large about the triumph of Disney or how music combined with the patient, intentional animation creates art like none other. But the main thing I think it would be a disservice to talk about would be the lessons that animation could have taught me had I been my current me, rather than what I was, rather than what it actually taught me for that time and space before I was older, more perceptive, and wiser, simply due to sheer advent of time and failure. So let's jump right into it, shall we? We are restricted. As kids, people weren't necessarily trying to take something from us, but rather keep us from something. What's so bad about us being collectors of who's-its and what's-its, singing with forks, and wanting more? Why did Dad not see that longing and nurture it? What are we left to do? Or when we get a little bored with every morning just the same, where the people think we are unquestionably strange, what are our alternatives? Or when we are restricted by law and not free to choose who to become, who can we look to? The Muppet Babies, well, they have a point. We make our dreams come true.
Is everything all right in here?
Yes, ma'am.
Despite the restriction. So I guess the first point is that in kidhood, animation taught us to deal with our restriction using our own imaginations. And imagination would be needed for lessons to come, but not before a brief detour. So now, having spent a few years cultivating our imagination, turning anxiety and longing into the anticipation for an adventure to come, what did we do with our real-life superpower? Nothing. And while it was there and grew instinctively for some, it was replaced with another lesson, that it was us and them.
James Bond Jr. Thundercats!
We were us because we were good, right, innocent, but not in any active way. We just kind of landed there with our heroes. We were good just as a state of being, just because the wrongs of the them made us that way.
These are the tales of the Skeleton Warriors.
Skeleton Warriors!
Things were black and white. It required no imagination. The heroes of my boyhood fought battle after battle, the same as the last, maybe with a twist if we were lucky. Each episode was a reboot, a restart. There were no stakes, no one grew, no one learned or compromised. Think about it. Was there ever an episode where Lion-O went to Mum-Ra's embassy to negotiate terms for peace? Maybe Mum-Ra had some good ideas about climate change or globalization in Third Earth. If it happened, then I don't remember. But what I remember was that both the us and the them were steadfast, determined. Animation taught us here that despite the flaws of us against them, that there is some heroic virtue in being driven and unshakable. Now, I'll admit, continuity wasn't something I had to familiarize myself with in my teen years. During kidhood, there were threads in all shows like Tailspin and James Bond Jr., which were repeated. And credit must be given to a show called Skeleton Warriors, a 90s cartoon that, to my recollection, was the first to actually end. I mean, hero throwing bad guy into lava, end. Threat is gone, end. But as they tried to stop the bad guy, it just kind of happened. I didn't know I was supposed to look for a resolution, or the things you might lose while trying to get there. Things on both sides. Batman is the personification of will and drive. And thanks to this epic show of the 90s, the creators gave us a continuity that forced us to imagine the deeds and habits of our titular hero when we weren't watching. It forced us to imagine, to use that always evolving imagination to read between the lines and understand our adversary's motivations. And perhaps a truly realistic weak spot existed and could be exposed. Drive plus continuity plus imagination gave us the safety net to foresee a day when our heroes actually lost. An old Tour.com blog post called Batman the Animated Series Rewatch focused on an episode titled I Am the Knight, where after Commissioner Gordon is shot, Bruce, Batman, contemplates what amounts to losing for him, which is quitting. He knows he can't stop crime. He doesn't fear his own death. So what avenues can a continuous story about a character like that travel? Where can they go? Darker ones.
1,000 years ago, superstition and the sword ruled. It was a time of darkness. It was a world of fear. It was the age of gargoyles. Stone by day, warriors by night. We were betrayed by the humans we had sworn to protect, frozen in stone by a magic spell for 1,000 years. Now here in Manhattan, the spell is broken, and we live again.
Darker ones where, despite loss or betrayal, there's a lesson that can keep us moving forward. We've seen it in the connection we have to our friends and family, but it's not necessarily the us versus them loyalty we have for them. It's something else. It's
water, earth, fire, air. We're all connected.
We are all connected.
Everything is connected.
We all understand story and have a part in one. So this has been a timeline of sorts to get here, where I'm a guy who has built layers upon my understanding of what I invest my time in watching. The sad truth is that a lot of adults can't say the same thing. They lost the lesson of steadfastness, so they lost the drive to watch the shows that they loved when having a childlike imagination was a requisite. Without imagination, if they also missed the part where we learned that animation contained continuity and that they were stories on both sides that people shared, that they never realized that story is medium agnostic, and that animation has a story to tell in any genre within the medium.
広がる闇の中交わし合った革命のちぎり誰にも邪魔させるわけにはいかないから
So another sad truth is that there are probably people out there who didn't learn that lesson, and all they know of Death Note is the horrid Netflix adaptation. Or even worse, all they know of The Last Airbender is M. Not's cringe-inducing live-action version. Some people believe that every animated story can be live-action, or every live-action story can be animated. I tend to agree. Every story can be a good story. At the onset, I mentioned a few topics I wouldn't touch, and you may have noticed that my examples in animation in this video have been light on the film and heavy on the heroes. For the record, another creator, Mike Motter, discussed my favorite animated, non-anime movie, The Prince of Egypt. The Lion King, a Disney movie, is my close second. Again, Disney was subject to a lot of other essays. However, I distinguish non-anime because Ninja Scroll is probably my #2 favorite animated film of all time and #1 for anime only. It's Akira Kurosawa-esque. The hero is Indiana Jones, the bad guy is the best class of Bond villain, and the female lead is headstrong and tortured. There is loss, there is violence. And when it's all said and done and this chapter is closed, we are left wondering what became of our hero. Now back to Death Note. If someone cannot accept animation as story, then he or she cannot understand the appeal of this manga-based series. Light Yagami is just a guy. While he has above average intellect, he doesn't do anything extraordinary. In the world that he's in, he's just a guy presented with an unusual premise who then makes choices. Choices that we have to either accept or reject, but either way, understand. They have to make sense. We are all connected. Our stories connect. But what choices are we making that momentarily make us a good person in a good story, but hours later, another seemingly exclusive choice makes us the villain in the same narrative? It's scary because it happens, and scarier because we do understand.
We are part of a secret society dedicated to restoring freedom to the world. We are the Red Lotus. The idea of having nations and governments is as foolish as keeping the human and spirit realms separate.
You've had to deal with a moronic president and a tyrannical queen. Don't you think the world would be better off if leaders like them were eliminated?
No.
True freedom can only be achieved when oppressive governments are torn down. Do you know who once said, "New growth cannot exist without first the destruction of the old"?
No.
The wise guru Lahima, an airbender.
Whoa, wait, it got a little dark there. But hey, how could we possibly get from Muppet Babies and Gummy Bears to Light and Zahir without the lessons animation taught us?